Very nice to be here today, and thank you very much to the Reed team for hosting. Sky Metals has the Tullabung Tin project, which is right in the middle of New South Wales. It's in the Cobar region of New South Wales, and we have a large and growing tin resource there with a distinct modern technology advantage. Quick disclaimer. To summarise what we're looking at Sky Metals, our cornerstone asset is the Tullabung Tin project, right there in the middle of New South Wales. We have an excellent team gathered at board level, chaired by Norm Seckold, mining veteran, and we've got near-term growth with an ongoing drilling campaign where we're seeing results coming out every couple of weeks, and we've got a few more months of results to come yet. So very excited about what we've got ahead of us. The tin market itself is seeing excellent demand with a backdrop of very shaky supply. And most recently, we've announced some developments at our larger Dorradilla project, which show we have a terrific tin development pipeline here at Sky Metals, and we're delivering near-term value. Just to go into the board of Sky Metals and a bit of a quick overview, Norm Seckold's our chairman. He's had many decades of successful mining companies, most recently with Nickel Industries, and then Richard Hill and Remus Karitis, amongst other things, they were the founding directors of Aurelia Metals, and their initial asset was the Hera mine, which is actually one of the closest mines to us at Tullabung. So we've got a team who have a proven track record of delivering exploration projects into development, and most importantly in this very same region. We're quite a tightly held stock, and worth pointing out as well that we have environmental consultants engaged now for about 3 or so years, and we're a long way down the track of getting all of our environmental permitting done. To briefly go into the tin market for you and to understand how the tin market has moved a long way from tin cans. In 2003, lead solar was banned by the EU, and tin is the only replacement. Tin is irreplaceable in all electronics. There's about a gram or two in your phone, there's about 400 grams in an internal combustion car, and there's about 1.2 kilograms in an EV. The solar ribbon that you see around the outside of a solar panel, that's made of tin. They're now working on a new solar cell that goes over the top of solar panels, and that increases efficiency, and it's made of tin. So tin is seeing more and more uses, on top of the fact that it's already used for circuit boards, meaning that as we move into AI and we have more and more circuit boards being created, we need more and more tin. So it's definitely something that's underpinned with a lot of growth in demand. The graph there is from the Macquarie Strategy Group, and it shows the increase in tin demand just for 3 applications, and you can see the growing tin price there as well with that. So quite an exciting backdrop and very, very shaky supply. So at the moment, China and Indonesia are the 2 largest suppliers of tin. China has not increased their domestic production of tin for a very long time. They are not having any luck finding more tin in China, and they're becoming more and more reliant on concentrate imports. And Indonesia has recently had a few corruption scandals. A lot of their tin comes from offshore dredging. It's very environmentally destructive, and it's something that I think we would like to move away from. So there are limited and reliable and ethical sources of tin, and there are very few investment opportunities on the ASX. And that's where Sky Metals comes in. The Tullabung Tin project is a major historic operation. It was discovered in the 1890s and mined right up until the 1980s. The large surface disturbance you can see there is predominantly from the alluvial mining, and on the right-hand side of that image is the old tailings dam from that operation. But the advantage here for us is that we have a lot of infrastructure that's already in place for us to tap into. Shortcuts there for us to get this back into supply as quickly as possible. So we've already got power lines to site, we've got an old water pipeline down the Lachlan River, and we've got excellent road access to the site already. And we're now defining a very, very large hard rock tin resource underlying this system. The key advantages that we have at Tullabung are a low-cost mining proposition. Again, we have a very low strip ratio, and we've got a deposit that comes to surface. And we continue to grow this drill hole. Every drill hole grows this deposit, And very interestingly for this deposit, we have an exceptional upgrade with ore sorting. Ore sorting is a deposit-dependent technology, and we're very lucky at Tullabung that we have the ideal deposit. So we see a 5 times grade increase at least, and we remove over 80% of the mass that's mined before we have to go into costly downstream processing. So what that means is that we have 80% less capex, so we pay 20% what we would have to otherwise. If our plant was going to cost $100 million, well, now it's only going to cost $20 million because of this massive reduction in mass that we have to process. And we're seeing very high recoveries in that step as well as benefits for OPEX. We have 80% lower water use, power use, all of those things. It's an excellent piece of technology, and it's terrific for this deposit. From there, we have very low-cost processing. It's just a gravity circuit, just as they would have done back in the 1890s when they first found this deposit. It's a very simple gravity circuit that produces a very high payability, high-grade tin concentrate that's in very high demand. Recently, we have had a number of exploration successes. We've found 11 metres at over 1% tin to the south of the known resource. For people unfamiliar with tin, 1% tin's worth about 3 grams gold or 3% copper, more than 3% copper. It's a very high value intercept. There's also a bit of silver there. And we've most recently done a bold step out drilling program to the southeast, where we've discovered 3 metres at almost 1% tin, but interestingly, over 600 grams per tonne gold. So we're quite excited about what could be down in this system. There are very large tin systems, particularly in the Andean tin belt of South America, where we see very large silver systems associated with tin systems, and it may well be that we're just discovering the edges of that. So we're quite excited to get in there and do some more drilling there. And we've had great success in this recent program of finding more and more high-grade zones. We've released the results for the first 50 holes, and we've got another 100 holes of results to come. So it's quite an exciting time for us in terms of news flow, and we're looking forward to that spilling out over the next few months. We do have a current resource here that Paul mentioned of 23,000 tonnes. That does not include any of these recent high-grade expansions, and to highlight how much we think we've grown that resource, all of those white dots are what we use to calculate the resource. All of those green dots were not in the resource. They are our recent drilling, and so we've expanded this deposit a lot since that resource. And it's very important to point out as well that the Tomra ore sorting upgrades our grade from 0.15% tin to over 0.7% tin. So that's a tremendous bit of technology for us. And to just go into a little bit more detail about why ore sorting works so well for us, there's a picture of the Tullabung mineralisation there. The large black grains there are the tin cassiterite, and then there's the plain quartz vein and sandstone that hosts the mineralisation. The quartz vein and siltstone are very plain, and the large cassiterite chunks are very, very dense, and it's that density contrast that the ore sorter uses X-rays, and it, just like an X-ray of your arm shows the bone, an X-ray of these rocks shows where the tin is as it stops more X-rays, and the rocks with more tin in them get ejected and all the other rocks get rejected. And it's that simple process that we see these phenomenal upgrades with. So just to talk about how the schematic cross-section of an ore sorter there, you feed in the rock at the top, it runs along a conveyor belt, goes underneath an X-ray system, and then the rocks that are detected with tin in them, they get fired off by a panel of air jets, and the rest of the rocks drop and are rejected. We've now done a broad study program over our whole deposit, and we've found on average it upgrades over 5 times, and we're getting near on 100% recovery of tin in that upgraded project. So we don't lose any tin in this process, we just are upgrading the ore. Most recently we went and we asked Tomra to do a very aggressive ore sort where we said, don't worry about the little bits of tin, we just want the big bits of tin in here. And that's where we saw a 44 times grade increase. We took it to almost 4.5% tin, which is equivalent to over 15% copper. Significant upgrade. We got rid of 98% of the mass, original mass, and we were still recovering 15 to 20%, only losing 15 to 20% of the tin. So it's a terrific piece of technology, ideally suited for this deposit. To give a bit of a peek behind the scenes, the middle image there is a raw X-ray image of our rocks. You can see the darker grains there are where we've got tin in the rocks. The computer classifies those as the blue and black ones, and all of those red rocks there get rejected. They don't get accepted by the machine, and it's that simple process that we see this upgrade. We've recently completed a large bulk sampling project where we got over 70 tonne of material, excavated it, and that's it there sitting in the TOMRA test facility. We then load that material up into a full-scale TOMRA machine. Up it goes the conveyor belt to be loaded in, pan feeder to spread it out across the conveyor belt. It then gets dropped into the machine, runs along that conveyor belt, gets X-rayed, and then you can see the panel of air jets firing off the rocks with tin in them. And then the near stream is all of our reject, and the far stuff is our ore. It's that simple a process that we're using to separate out the waste from this project and have significant benefits in terms of our water and power usage, but most importantly that OPEX and CAPEX figures, making this project a uniquely low-cost proposition. To go into a bit more detail about how we did the bulk sampling program, we picked 4 sites across the deposit, and we did trenches that traversed across the ore body. We took about 10 to 15 tonne from each one of those 4 samples. We had those crushed. They went down to the TOMRA test facility in Sydney, where they were all sorted, and now they're in ALS Perth being assayed. We have received the first assays already for the waste, and we're finding that there's negligible tin in that waste. So we're seeing high recoveries in this bulk sample, and we're seeing much more material rejected. So actually, as we're going through this process, we're continuing to improve on it and optimise it, and we're seeing much better results as we continue to develop the process. So really encouraging signs so far, and showing what a terrific project we have here. There are some higher grade zones to this deposit where we have higher grade material close to surface that look like really attractive starter pits, so that we can look at paying off things like CAPEX in the first months rather than years. Very quick payback on the project potential there, and the steps forward for us are very straightforward. We continue this large scale drill out that we're doing now, continue to grow in these new higher grade discoveries that we've made, which are looking quite exciting. Release an updated resource on the back of this drilling, and then move into announcing our scoping studies on the back of the new resource. And I think that's a very important point for this project. When we convert all of these advantages that I'm talking about into dollars, that's a really clear moment when people are going to be quite surprised by how excellent it is. To go in briefly about what we're doing on the mine permitting front, due to the ongoing very high conviction we've had for this project, we got started on the mine permitting piece very early. We've already got almost 2 years' worth of data on the groundwater monitoring bores. We're stepping through the biodiversity studies and all those other bits and pieces we need to tick off, and they're very well advanced now to have us poised to very quickly work into that mine permitting process and get this project off and running. To see that a bit more graphically for you and sort of summarise what we've spoken about, we've got well advanced environmental studies running into all of our technical studies and resource drilling. They'll culminate, hopefully by the end of this year, into an updated scoping study to be released to talk about these project economics, and then we can run very quickly into getting this project off and going. Now, to sort of look at one of our other projects, very recently we've released results of a metallurgical breakthrough for our Doradilla project. This is another tin project which is up in northern New South Wales near Burke. It's been known about since the 1970s, and it is an absolute monster of a tin system up there. In the 1970s and 80s, they did a bit of metallurgical test work on it, and they had trouble recovering the tin out of the rock. But we've recently completed test work where we're getting almost 80% recovery of tin out of this, showing us that this is a viable project up here, and we've got a very large exploration target on it. The exploration target quoted there is actually only for a third of the total strike that we know about here. And this is a project that it's nowhere near as advanced as Tallabung, but it certainly shows the potential for Sky Metals to be tin producers for decades to come. Very exciting development, and very grateful for your time today. Thank you very much.